Welcome back to our channel for Sherlock Holmes series, written by Arthur Conan Doyle. The Mazarin Stone. Watson arrived at Baker Street after a lengthy interval. He cast his eyes all over the familiar room till they rested upon the smiling Billy. Billy was the young but wise attendant of great detective known as Sherlock Holmes. "You haven't changed a bit, Billy," Watson stated. "I hope the same can be said about my friend Sherlock." "I think he's asleep in his bed," Billy said, as he looked at the closed bedroom door. It was 7 in the evening on a lovely summer's day, but Watson was well aware of his friend's irregular work hours. "That means a case, I suppose." "Yes, sir, but I'm scared about his health," Billy replied. "He gets paler and thinner and yet eats nothing. You know how he is when he's on a case." "I do, Billy." "He's been following someone," Billy informed Watson. "Yesterday he was disguised as an unemployed workman and today he was an old woman." Billy grinned and pointed at the old woman's outfit lying on the sofa. "What's it all about, Billy?" "It's the case of the crown diamond, sir." "What? The 3,000-pound burglary?" I exclaimed. "Yes, sir. Both the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary visited us today. They have to get it back. Mr. Holmes assured them he would do all he could to get it back. Then there's Lord Cantlemere." "Ah," I exclaimed. "You know what I mean, sir," Billy said. "I just can't get along with his lordship and neither can Mr. Holmes. Why he does not believe in Mr. Holmes' skill and was against employing him. He'll be happy if Mr. Holmes failed." "I hope he won't," I stated. "Say, Billy, what's that curtain across the window for?" "Well, Mr. Holmes put something funny behind there just 3 days ago." Billy walked over and drew the curtain aside, and Watson cried in astonishment. A duplicate of Holmes in his dressing gown with the body sunk deep in the armchair rested by the window. The face was turned 3/4 towards the window and looking downwards as if reading an invisible book. Billy looked out into the street as he drew the window curtains aside. "People are watching us from outside. There's a fellow outside the window now. Have a look for yourself," he urged Watson. Watson had just taken a step forward when the bedroom door opened and the long, frail figure of Sherlock Holmes emerged. He looked pale and haggard, but was as energetic as ever. With a single stride, he had reached the window and had drawn the blinds again. "That will do, Billy," he ordered. "You could have lost your life, my boy. Good to see you again, Watson. You do come at a critical time." "So I gather," Watson replied. "You may leave now, Billy. I cannot let you endanger yourself," Holmes declared. "Danger of what, Holmes?" "Of death. I'm expecting something to happen tonight." "Expecting what?" "Expecting to be murdered, Watson." "You must be joking, Holmes." "I'm not, Watson, but you might as well know the name and address of the murderer so that you can give it to Scotland Yard. Write it down. Count Negretto Silvius, 136, Moorside Gardens, NY. "But can't you have the fellow arrested, Holmes?" Watson asked anxiously. "Of course." "Then why don't you?" "Because I still don't know the whereabouts of the diamond." "The missing crown jewel?" "Yes, the great yellow Mazarin Stone. Although I know who the two thieves are, there's no use arresting the two of them if I can't get the diamond." "Who's the other man?" Watson asked. Sam Merton, the boxer. He's the Count's faithful attendant. Where's Count Silvius now? I followed him all morning today, Holmes replied. He went to Straubenzie's workshop first. Straubenzee is the man who made the air gun that I think is aimed at this room from the opposite window even as we speak. The dummy might be hit on the head with a bullet any moment. What is it, Billy? Billy had reappeared into the room with a card that he handed over to Holmes. The man himself, Holmes exclaimed with a raised eyebrow and a smile after he glanced at the card. I must say I wasn't expected him. This is evidence that he is sure that I am close on his trail. Call the police, Holmes. I will, but not just yet, Holmes said as he ordered Watson to look out the window and see if he spotted someone outside. There's a rough-looking man near the door, Watson reported. That'll be Sam Merton. Where's the gentleman, Billy? Holmes inquired. In the waiting room, sir. Holmes ordered Billy to show the man in when Holmes rang the bell. Watson refused to leave Holmes alone as the Count might murder him, but Holmes convinced him to leave for Scotland Yard immediately. He whispered out his notebook and scribbled a few lines. Give this to Yogle of the CID and return with the police. The fellow will be arrested soon. I shall have just enough time to figure out where the diamond is in the meantime. Holmes touched the bell and the two exited together through the bedroom so that the Count found himself in an empty room when he was shown in by Billy. The Count was a big fellow with a huge moustache covering a cruel thin-lipped mouth. He had a longish curved nose and was elegantly dressed. He stared around fiercely as the door shut behind him. Then he spotted the dummy beside the window and he was stunned. Then his murderous eyes shone with excitement. He cast his eyes around the room to check if any witness were around and reassured, he approached the quiet figure on tiptoe with his half-stick raised. Don't break it, Count. A cool voice from the bedroom door interrupted him just as he was about to strike the dummy. Count Silvius moved backwards with his mouth open in astonishment. He half raised his weapon as if he would strike the original instead of the dummy now, but something in those steel grey eyes and mocking smile made him drop his hand to his side. It's a loving thing, isn't it? Holmes stated as he advanced towards the dummy. It is the work of Tavernier, the French modeler. He's as good at his work as your friend Straubenzee is at making those air guns. Air guns? The Count exclaimed. What do you mean, sir? Would you be kind enough to keep your hat and stick on the side table, please? Holmes requested. Thank you. Now please take a seat. Would you like to keep your revolver there as well, or would you prefer to keep sitting on it? Thank you for coming, by the way. I desperately wanted to have a small chat with you. I want to have a few words with you too, Holmes. The Count scowled menacingly. I won't deny that I wanted to beat you up a while ago. Why? Holmes asked as he swung his foot on the edge of the table. You have disturbed me by putting your spies behind my back, the Count complained. Yesterday it was an old sporting man and today an old woman. They followed me throughout the day. You compliment me, sir, Holmes laughed. Thank you for praising my performance. It was you? The Count exclaimed and Holmes shrugged. If I had known, you would have never seen this home again, Holmes finished the Count's sentence for him. I know. You admit that you followed me, the Count growled in rage. Why? It's simple. I want the yellow diamond. The Count gave an evil smile. You knew about it all along, but you have come here to find out just how much I know about the entire affair, and if I need to be killed because of how much I know. Holmes added. Well, I know everything except the fact which you will tell me. Indeed, the Count exclaimed. What is this missing fact? Where the Mazarin Stone is? You want to know that, do you? How do I know? Oh, you know, and you will tell me, Holmes insisted. You can't bluff me, Count. The Count looked at the ceiling as he was unable to meet Holmes' piercing eyes. Holmes opened a notebook. Do you know what's in this, Count? You? Me? The Count exclaimed in surprise. Yes, sir, you. It has every detail of your evil and dangerous life. Damn you, Holmes, the Count exclaimed with the angry eyes. You are trying my patience. Everything's here, Count, right from how old Miss Harrel died to the real facts as to how she left you the Blymer estate. It also has the complete life history of Miss Minnie Warrender. You can't do anything with that, Holmes, the Count laughed. There's a lot more. Here are the details of the robbery in the train to the Riviera on February 13th, 1892 and the details of the Ford check in the same year on the Credit Lyonnais. What has all this got to do with the jewel you mentioned? Patience, Count. Also control the anger. I have clear evidence in the case of the Mazarin Stone against you and your boxer friend. Really? I have the cabman who drove you to Whitehall and the one who drove you away. Not only do I have the commissioner who spotted you near the case, but also Ike Sanders who refused to cut the diamond for you. The veins bulged on Count's head as he clenched his fist angrily. But only one card is missing here, Holmes added. I don't know where the stone is. You will never know. Be reasonable, Count. Consider the circumstances. Both you and Sam Merton will be locked up for 20 years on the basis of evidence. What use will the diamond be then? But give it up and we'll lessen the sentence. We want the diamond, not you or Sam. What if I say no? Sadly, then you suffer, Holmes replied and rang the bell. Billy appeared instantly. Holmes asked him to fetch Sam Merton from outside. Hello, Mr. Merton. Holmes greeted the prize fighter as he appeared and stood awkwardly by the door. He was heavily built with a stupid face. What's the game, Count? He asked, who simply shrugged his shoulder. I'm busy man, Count, Holmes stated. So please don't waste my time. I shall leave you two alone here to discuss the situation as I go to my bedroom. I shall return after 5 minutes for your final answer. Holmes picked up his violin and entered the bedroom. A little later, the wailing notes of the violin could be heard from the shut bedroom. Does he know about the stone? Merton whispered worriedly. He knows a lot of things, the Count replied. Ike Sanders has split on us. The boxer's face turned white. I'll put up him right for that, he threatened. That won't do us any good now, the Count stated. We have to decide what to do now. I hope he's not listening, Merton said as he looked suspicious at the bedroom door. Not with that music he's playing. Suddenly, Merton spotted the dummy and stared. The Count assured him that it was only a dummy of Holmes. Then he explained the offer that Holmes had made. Why give up the stone? Merton said. Let's shoot him. No, the Count replied. He's armed and ready. We can't get away by killing him. The police must already know about the evidence. What's that? The Count exclaimed as they heard a sudden noise. But the room was empty except for the dummy in the chair. Must be a noise from the street, Merton concluded. But think now, Count. You're the one with the brains. I have fooled better men than Holmes, the Count boasted. The stone is right here in my secret pocket. I always carry it with me. It can be out of England tonight and smuggled into Amsterdam, where it can be cut into 4 pieces before Sunday. He doesn't know about Van Seder. Isn't Van Seder leaving next week? He was, but he has to leave by the next boat. One of us must take the stone to Lime Street and brief him. But the false bottom isn't ready yet. Well, there's no time. He will have to risk it, the Count stated. We'll fool Holmes by promising him the stone and putting him on the wrong track. By the time he figures that out, both of us and the stone will be out of England. That sounds like a plan, Merton exclaimed. Here's the stone, the Count said. Let's have a look at it by the window. The dummy suddenly jumped up and seized the precious jewel from the Count's hand. Holmes held it in one hand and pointed his revolver at the 2 men with his other. The 2 men were so stunned that they could not react as Holmes pressed the bell. The police awaited below, gentlemen. So no tricks, Holmes warned. But how did you? The Count finally managed to speak. A second door from my bedroom leads behind the curtain, Holmes exclaimed. That was the sound you heard when I removed the figure and placed myself on the chair so that I could overhear your conversation. But what about the sound of violin? Merton exclaimed. I can still hear it. Yes, those modern gramophones are really useful at times, Holmes replied. The police entered just then to handcuff the criminals and lead them away. Watson congratulated Holmes and Billy announced Lord Cantleman. The door opened to admit a thin man with a long face with thick black whiskers on it. How do you do, Lord Cantlemere? Holmes greeted him. Here, let me take your overcoat. No, thank you. I have merely come to see the progress on the case. It's a tough nut to crack, Holmes replied. I feared you would find it to be so, the Count sneered. It's confusing indeed, Holmes admitted. One thing baffles me. I wonder if you could help me out. It's too late for my advice, but I shall try my best. Would you arrest the person who is in the possession of the stone? Holmes asked. Of course. Then I need to arrest you, my lord, Holmes stated, and an angry Lord Cantlemere stormed off towards the door. But Holmes ran between him and the door. To run away with the Mazarin Stone is a grave offence, he stated. This is unpardonable, the Count growled. Let me pass. See what is there in the right hand pocket of your overcoat, Holmes ordered. The Lord fished in his pocket and his hand held the great yellow stone. He was blinking and stammering as his plan shook in surprise. How is this possible, Mr. Holmes? He asked. Well, my lord, Holmes replied, I can never resist creating a dramatic situation. It was I who put it there. It was I who put it there at the beginning of our conversation. The old man stared at the stone and then at the smiling face of Sherlock Holmes. We are extremely grateful to you, Mr. Holmes, he stated. Your sense of humor is bad, but I take back my harsh words about your professional capability. But how? The case is half finished, but the details can wait. I shall share them later, Holmes replied. Billy, will you be kind enough to show his lordship out and tell Mr. Hudson that I am very hungry indeed? You were listening to The Mazarin Stone. If you have enjoyed this audiobook, then please subscribe to our channel. Thank you for being a Wordteller listener. We will be back with another audiobook shortly. Until then, happy listening.